Keto for diabetes. Does it work? Hey, hope everyone's doing well out there. I wanted to discuss how things have been going for me this time around on the ketogenic diet. I think I'm around a month and a half to 2 months in this time. I've done it several times over the last 5 to 10 years. Like I mentioned before, this is the absolute best run I've ever had with it, and I attribute that to tracking religiously, I would say, and even probably more so my electrolyte levels and managing those, and managing those by ensuring I'm using enough salt in my diet, also supplementing with some magnesium and potassium in multiple forms. So like I said, this is the absolute best run with keto, and I plan to do this for the long haul. I don't think I'll ever come, I don't want to say never, but my intention is to just stay in ketosis, follow the ketogenic diet as I have, because I feel fantastic. But this all started because I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes a few months ago. And it's something I always knew could happen. And actually, I'd have to admit, I thought it just would happen. Looking back, it probably never would have happened if I managed my blood glucose levels. Unfortunately, being in the United States, we have a funny way of handling things. In my opinion, we allow the medical industry to be the sole provider and influence sometimes. And, I think the best way for someone who has a lot of diabetes in their, in their genetics, in their family history, probably would be to start monitoring blood sugar from a pretty young age. If I was doing that in my, in my late teens and 20s from there on, I could have probably headed it off, but that's in the past. I did a little travel for work, and I was very irresponsible in the way I ate. I love food, and I can get carried away, and that's what I did. And I had a physical, and aside from feeling a slight lack of energy, I didn't feel that bad. And when my A1C came back, which was very high, my doctor was shocked because it was a full-blown. The blood draw showed a full-blown diabetes. So from that point, I didn't decide to immediately jump back onto keto. I said I'm just going to go low carb. I'm gonna go back to paleo because an anti-inflammatory diet I know works well, and it did. It brought my blood sugar down pretty good. I was still eating some fruit. My blood sugars went from about 300 into the 200s, and they also put me on metformin. So I don't know which, a very small dose of metformin, 500 milligrams at night, and that I'm sure had an effect on bringing it down and ensuring I didn't get the high blood sugars during the night. But during the day, my blood sugars, they came down pretty good as I started to follow a fairly low carb paleo diet. And, they were in the hundreds, 150, 160, 130. And I did that for at least a month and a half. And then, I decided to go keto, back to the ketogenic diet. And that's been phenomenal. Yesterday, I had a blood sugar, I had keto coffee. I had a coffee with butter and MCT oil. And I had that for the first 4 or 5 hours of the day, and I took a blood sugar, and it was 71, which, for a type 2 diabetic, you wouldn't think it would ever be that low. But it was 71, and then I had a good-sized lunch, which was a T-bone steak with some butter on it. I also had, I think I had some Brussels sprouts, and I think I had some walnut butter on celery, and I had pickles, maybe 1 or 2 other things. I had a salad as well with some nice dressing on it. And 2 hours after that pretty good sized meal, my blood sugar was 87, which would be fantastic for a normal, or let's say a non-type 2 diabetic. So it's safe to say that the ketogenic diet is working very well for me. I'm going to have a round of blood drawn next month. A week before I visit the endocrinologist, which will be my first ever visit to the endocrinologist, which is obviously in response to a type 2 diabetes diagnosis. And we'll see what happens. I'm interested to see the whole spectrum of the blood draw and also see what my A1C is. I'm 99% sure it's going to be significantly lower than it was. It has to be, obviously, based on all the blood glucose readings that I've been getting. So I'll definitely make a video about that. Just wanted to report in. I'd love to get some comments from anyone else out there, other type 2 and even type 1 diabetics, and their possible use of the ketogenic diet to manage their diabetes. So love to see the comments, and please give me a like. Would appreciate that as well. Thank you.